Welcome to another episode of Autogefuhl. Today we have the all-new Volkswagen T-Cross. Join us as we check out what this car can do. So it's got a very flat, vertical front grille, kind of like an amalgamation of some of the different elements that are used throughout the Volkswagen SUV range. Like for example, the front grille I think is very Tiguan-like, but down here, as you guys can see, there's kind of like this V or like an X, if you go both ways, which is kind of similar to the T-Roc. So in that way, it is a bit of an amalgamation of different SUV design lines. As standard, the T-Cross comes with halogen lamps and the daytime running light will be down here. But if you get the optional LED, the full LED headlamps like we have here, then of course, the main lamps are LED and the daytime running light is kind of like this C-shape or L-shaped strip along the bottom of the main cluster, and that would be just a fog lamp housing. This car is 4.11 meters long, which means yes, it is longer than the Polo, but of course shorter than the T-Roc. Also, it has been raised by 4 centimeters, which means there is a little bit more ground clearance than the Polo. At the back, at the top, we have a glossy black spoiler of sorts. Again, with the R-line to kind of evoke a little bit more sporty character to the car. Let's take a look inside the trunk. This is 385 liters, which is not that much. I think the Arona is a little bit better in terms of the volume, but it is a very usable area. It is very square and it is very easy to load things. Not much of a lip here. You just have to get it up to this height. What you can do is tumble the front seat down, and this also does lay fairly flat, and this way you really do have a very large or very long loading area for you to carry some, maybe planks of wood for your cupboard from IKEA. So it might be small, but it is certainly trying to be as practical as possible. So let's take a look inside the car, but first here's the key fob. Nothing new here, nothing fancy to talk about. So by the way, this color is called the Reef Blue. So kind of like Thomas Blue. Let's take a look inside. So the door is fairly upright and fairly tall, opens really wide, gives you good access. Of course, now this being 4 centimeters higher off the ground and the seating position also being taller, it is very easy to get in and out of. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself again. Materials on the door around here are very monotone, very hard. And there is some nice textured pattern inlay, which kind of breaks that monotony. More colors here, but all are hard plastic, except for the part that really matters, which is here where you put your elbow. So I can totally live with that. This is a small budget car. It is the smallest and the cheapest SUV that Volkswagen make at the moment. Getting inside, again, super easy. This is actually about 6 centimeters higher in terms of the seating position overall than the Polo. That's because of the 4 centimeters higher ground clearance, and just overall the stance is a little bit higher. I always enjoy driving with the seating position in the lowest setting. The steering wheel actually has a little bit of a different design. I quite like it. There's a lot more angles and contours in the center here. This comes with the optional virtual cockpit. In this way, if you have the map here, if you put it over there, then whoever is sitting on the side can be the DJ. They can connect their phone with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So that makes it really easy to stream from your phone directly. You can connect with Bluetooth. Of course, you have USB drives where you can add your own, you can just put a pen drive with a lot of music. You can store different images and so on. Dual zone air conditioning with seat heaters, an inductive phone charging port, couple USB ports over there, 12-volt power socket and engine start-stop, And of course, this car that we're driving comes with a 6-speed manual transmission. All right, let's take a look in the back seat. The door opens nice and wide, has a very squared opening, so it's easy to put your child seats. The ISOFIX pints are also located right on the outside, so they're very easy to identify and very easy to attach to the seat. The seat belts are also, can be kind of clamped away with this little clip, which I really like. So when you do tumble the seat forward like so, they don't come in the way. Nice little touch. The door, however, the materials on the inside are all completely hard, even the place where you put your elbow. But on the plus side, getting inside is really easy, thanks to it being a SUV with a higher seating position. Let's take a look under the hood. By the way, this power dome in the middle also looks pretty cool. So, what powers this little SUV? Well, you have a choice of petrol and diesel engines at the moment. First of all, you have the 1.0 liter TSI turbo petrol 3-cylinder engine, like the one we have here. This makes either 95 horsepower or 115 horsepower, which is the one we have. The 95 horsepower engine comes with a 5-speed manual, whereas the 115 horsepower engine comes with a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed DSG. There is also a 1.5 liter TSI 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine, which makes 150 horsepower. That's 150 horsepower. Again, very familiar engines from the Volkswagen portfolio. That also comes with the 7-speed DSG only. In terms of diesel, currently there is only the 1.6 TDI, which makes 95 horsepower and comes coupled with the 5-speed manual or the 7-speed DSG. And they're all only front-wheel drive. Okay, we are in sunny Mallorca, starting off in Palma, and I know this beautiful location at the north of the island near some hills, and I want to go there. It's one of my favorite places. So, on the way, this will give us a great chance to test the new T-Cross out in the city, which, let's be honest, is perhaps its natural habitat, on the highway, through some winding country roads, and we can analyze it that way. I think I gotta go right, so let me get across. Again, already I can tell you, in the city, it's very easy to kind of put the car in narrow spaces, change lanes really quickly, fit it into narrow old European streets here in the heart of Palma near the beautiful cathedral. We were just driving around a little bit, no problem, no sweat. I mean, of course, you could probably fit larger cars in these roads, but the real thing, the real advantage of a small car is that you don't feel scared about it. Like, if you guys remember, a few months ago, Michelle and I were also here driving the Porsche Macan. And that, first of all, is a Porsche, and it's a little bit bigger. And when we were driving through the inside of the old town, it was a little bit nerve-wracking to make sure that you don't hit the rims, you don't hit the, it's really tight, and you don't want to damage the car. Whereas with a T-Cross, it's really small. It kind of wraps itself around you. It's really nimble. So in the city, it's really great. However, I must say, the visibility could have been better. I mean, this is an SUV, so it has that tall stance. You are sitting, I think, about 6 centimeters higher than you would in a Polo, thanks to, of course, the extra ground clearance itself, point number one, but also because the seats are more higher and a little further up. The dashboard is also quite shallow, but the windscreen, the front windscreen, isn't that large. I think it could have, first of all, come up a little bit more towards your head, and also the dashboard could have been a little bit lower. I think right now it's a bit too high. In fact, this reminds me of the Volkswagen Up. I drove the Up GTI when I did the special GTI episode. You guys should check out that video. And even there, you know, it kind of reminds me of that. Of course, the interior is very much like the Polo with the navigation screen, the dashboard here, the digital cockpit, so on and so forth. But this kind of a very tall, upright dashboard is a bit reminiscent of the Volkswagen Up. But anyway, there are plenty of assistance systems and sensors to help you get around. It also has the auto start stop. So in city driving, it will shut the engine off when you come to a light to save a little bit of fuel. Turning circle again is really nimble. And the steering wheel is also fairly light, so it's really easy to make quick corrections and maneuvering maneuvering around in the city. Now we're heading out of Palma and getting up into the north, where my favorite area of the island is. So let's test the T-Cross and its behavior out on the highway. We saw that in the city, it fits right in. It feels like a little mouse in the jungle. Very nimble, very agile. But does that mean on the highway it's not sure-footed? In one word, not really, no. It feels pretty good. And that's because, of course, it has the wider track that you get with the MQB A0 platform. It also has a pretty long wheelbase. It's in fact a little bit longer than the Polo as well. So it does have that, at least that minimum amount of size for it to feel confident. Because of the tall body, yes, you do feel a little bit more of the wind noise at times, or maybe I do feel that maybe this, it is more susceptible to being pushed around. Today the weather is quite fine, but I have a feeling, and I did feel that a little bit as well. But apart from that, it does feel really good and very composed. It is that road that I was talking about. This is leading up to the mountains to a great lookout vista at the north of the island. So I have the car in sports mode. Here the throttle response is sharpened. Steering is also a little bit heavier. This 3-cylinder sounds really nice. This 1.0 TSI, 115 horsepower, something that I'm quite familiar with. I've driven this in several other MQB A0 cars, and also the Up GTI, where it is in a similar state of tune. A lot of bicyclists here, so I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful. But the truth is, with this engine, you need to really keep it over 3,000 RPM for it to really pick up pace. It does sound pretty cool. It's got that nice 3-cylinder burbling sound. You don't really hear too much of the turbo. Brakes pretty well. Dives into the corner. It does have a little bit of body roll, which I guess, cannot be avoided. Steering feels not that great, to be honest. It is a little bit softer, even with this sport mode. It is heavier, but that doesn't really make it much more, doesn't give me too much more feedback. It is not necessarily a fast track either. Gear lever, as with MQB A0 VW cars, could be a little bit crisper, so it does feel a bit spongy. It is a little bit of a long throw. Actually, now that I'm putting it a little bit through its paces, the body roll is not that bad. It is a little bit more noticeable than, of course, the Polo or the Ibiza, but it's not something that really takes away from the fun. Let's summarize today's episode of the all-new Volkswagen T-Cross. With prices starting just under 18,000 euros, it does command a little bit of a premium over the Polo. Nevertheless, it is still on average 2,500 euros cheaper than the T-Roc. And for that, you do get quite a lot of car. First of all, it is an SUV, so that means you have a higher ground clearance, which is always useful to tackle rougher roads. The upright seating position is also something that a lot of people really appreciate with SUVs. However, I do wish that the front windshield was a little bit bigger, and I would definitely recommend you pick a lighter color for the interior so that it feels a little bit more airy. In the city, it fits right in thanks to its compact dimensions, easy to maneuver, easy to park. But at the same time, on the highway, it is very composed, thanks in part to the assistance systems like the adaptive cruise control and the lane keeping assist. There's also a lot of technology and kit like the Beats audio system, the virtual cockpit, traffic sign recognition, and phone connectivity. On the twisty roads, I think it is also pretty good. Of course, there is a little bit of body roll, but I really recommend this 1-liter TSI with 115 horsepower because it's got good enough power at low range. That turbo also means a lot more torque higher on in the rev range as well. If you keep it above 3,000 RPM, that's the sweet spot really, and it does sound pretty fun. The 6-speed manual might not be the most enthusiastic for all of us, but it is doing the job pretty well. The throw could be a little bit better, but for the market, I think it does the job just right. Overall, it does seem that good things come in small packages, and the T-Cross is no exception. So, I want to know what you guys think. Let me know, put it down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.